I wasn't exactly sure what to name this video. How to study inspiration, how to break down reference, how to learn from your idols, how to reverse engineer composition. Or I could go with something a little bit more sensational like, How Pinterest is Killing Self-Education, or The Millennial's Guide to Consuming Everything While Never Learning Anything. Ultimately, I just went with something simple. Learn, create, repeat. How to better study inspiration and reference. I see a lot of students and beginners failing to understand the basic idea of deconstructing professional work. Your style might be there, but your ability isn't there yet, and there is a gap. And what I want to talk about is how to close that gap. In anything that you're learning to do well, you have to figure out how to close the gap between the creative ability, your creative ability, and the prose ability. There are two questions that you should ask when comparing your work to professional work. The first question is, what am I doing that they are not? The second question is the inverse of that. What are they doing that I'm not? While this seems overly simplistic, this type of study is crucial and often overlooked. Now, in no way should you copy other people's work or try to mimic somebody else's style, but someone who is producing work at a professional, competitive level has learned how to solve the visual problems, and they've learned what, when, how, and why to do things and what to avoid. There is a lot to learn there without knocking off their style or copying their work. We'll come back to this frog here in a moment, but first I want to show you something. This is how most people view art, illustration, photography, etc. They just speed past hundreds of examples. People used to go to art galleries and sit and look at a single piece of work for long periods of time without speaking. Now, with Google Images, Pinterest, Tumblr, Instagram, Behance, etc., we have access to an infinite number of amazingly creative images, and we consume it. But you have to understand something extremely important. Spending a few minutes browsing hundreds of images is not studying. This is merely eye candy, empty calories that make you feel full, but offers absolutely no nutritional value. This type of visual snacking is the educational equivalent of eating ramen noodles every meal of every day. Sure, it makes the hunger pains go away, but eventually you're going to die an ignominious and malnutrition death. If you want to grow up big and strong, you need to eat your vegetables. And I don't mean mixing a can of peas in with your ramen. Now, by studying their work and looking at their process, you can begin to learn how the professionals do their professional work. By doing this often, while you are creating your work of your own, you will begin to internalize what you're seeing, and eventually you'll be able to apply the things that you've learned without thinking too much about it. As you begin to dive deeper and deeper into the study of good quality work, you will begin to see deeper levels and how the elements work together. And eventually, you will be able to create work at that level. So there are a couple different levels that you would get to as you're identifying work. The first level is, if you're looking at, let's take our frog analogy again. The first level is, that is a frog, right? Being able to identify good work, being able to say, that is good work and that is bad work, right? You can identify what it is. That is not a lizard, that's not a cat, that is a frog. It's not very deep at this point, but it is helpful, right? Being able to say that's good design, that's bad design. The second level is saying, oh, there's some gooey stuff inside of that frog, right? I bet you that does something. Basically, the second level is recognizing that there is something that makes that composition work. The third level is saying that is the stomach. That is the liver. Being able to identify the elements that make up that composition. Being able to identify the different organs. Being able to identify the different components. Okay, number four, the level number four, is being able to say what it is that each one of those elements does. So individually, you understand how the stomach works, or individually, you understand what the intestines do. The fifth and final level of understanding is to understand how those individual elements work together in systems, and how those systems work together to make the greater whole. You can go at level 4 and point out that is alignment, that is proximity, that is value contrast. But without a proper understanding about how those individual elements work together to create a good composition and a greater whole, then you still haven't quite figured everything out. Now, beyond that is being able to actually do those things. So here's some pieces of advice. Spend time on a single image, one image at a time, and break it down. Do things like drawing over the top of it. Write down your observations on an actual physical piece of paper, right? Write down the rules, see what they're doing and how they're contrasting different elements and using different design principles. compositional elements and compositional principles, and doing things. What are they doing with color theory? Go through the list of things, maybe even have a checklist with you, and go through the list of things so that you can begin to move down those levels. You've identified something as good work. Now you need to see what those gooey things are inside. Identify the individual pieces, and then try to figure out how they are working together as a whole. While you're doing this, you need to constantly be creating your own work. Don't get into this learning paralysis where you fool yourself into thinking that you'll get better solely by study without actually creating your own work. A lot of people do this. Well, I've read a ton of books on that subject, but you haven't actually started doing something. And so you need to study, create, study, create, study, create. That's why the title of this video is Learn, Create, Repeat, right? You need to get in there and learn what you need to learn, okay? And do it, and then learn more and do it. The cool thing is that each time you go around this cycle of study, create, study, create, study, create, you'll bring a greater knowledge and greater skill set from the last time around. And each time you do that, you'll move a little bit closer to closing that gap in your work, and your ability to understand why and how that work does work will get better and better and better as you close that gap. So get out there, break things down, reverse engineer them, figure out how they work. I want you to get a couple designs every day, a couple illustrations, a couple photographs, slice them open them up, start identifying things and understanding how they work, and then go out and do those things. If you want to take what you've learned and see if you can apply it to your own projects, your own products, your own things that you are creating. And as you do that, you will get better and you will close that gap. This has been Illo Talk. I'm Cory Kerr. If you're interested in getting more of this type of thing, then go ahead and go to corykerr.com/email, and you can sign up for my email newsletter where you get notified when I make things and videos and stuff like that. And you can also see my work at corykerr.com. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, that would be awesome. You can also just click on the link on corykerr.com there. And, if you want to subscribe, follow, share, do all that, that would be awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Go out there and make stuff.